Currently, we have 3 poultry farm preparations going on at the moment. The first is this right here. It's foundation work for our hugest barn yet. This is going to house our parent stock. I've shown you guys this before on one of my videos. I'll leave a link to that video right here. So this is where we're going to be housing our parent stock. It's quite a huge barn. It should be 12 by 80 meters. And it has the capacity to take over 5,700 chickens with the correct spacing. It's taken quite some amount of time, but it's because we want to do the right thing the correct way the very first time to prevent, having to do it over and over again. So the foundation work is going on. After that, it's going to be really easy building it up. But this is the first and the biggest project that we have currently going on. Then the second barn we have is this one. Now, this had been used by the previous owner to store maize and process maize for selling, but we're not going to be using it for maize. So this is quite a big house. It has the capacity to keep up to 1,700 birds if kept with the proper spacing, but we're not going to be using it for that. So we've already placed our order for the parent stock, and looking at the pace at which the house is going, we certainly will not be ready by the time they arrive. We should be in a month's time or so, a little over that. So we are trying to prepare this place because we need to disinfect. You guys know the whole biosecurity measures. Now, this house is not in the ideal place, but we need to get the house ready because all we're going to use it really for is the brooding. Hopefully, a few weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, and then the other house will be ready and we shall move the birds in there. But this is the second house, which is going to be a barn at the moment that we are currently preparing. The disinfection. We're going to close off the windows, make sure the place is warm and ready enough for the birds that are going to come in very soon. Then this in the background is the third one. Now this is a chicken house that we are going to build on a space which is probably around between 2 and 3 acres, not very certain. And this is going to be for the free range birds. We're going to have chickens, we're going to have ducks and guinea fowls. All of them are going to be housed in this space, but we know that chickens don't want to sleep outside. Currently there is no shade on this area, as you guys can see. So we've fenced it in, and we are putting up this house in order to support the birds. The chickens will probably sleep inside because they don't want to sleep outside. The ducks, you can never get them to sleep inside unless you force them, and I don't want to force them. They always prefer to stay outside. And the guinea fowls, I'm honestly not sure. I've seen people keep them, but I think they do sleep inside. So we're going to be keeping them in here. And this has the capacity to keep between 300 and 350 of the chickens if you're taking chickens alone. So ideally we have 3 chicken houses with 3 different capacities. And I could have chosen to start with any of the 3. But which is the ideal number to start with? You're at home, you want to start keeping chickens and you're not sure how many you should start with. Now this is a very commonly asked question that I've got from you guys on the YouTube channel. I want to start a poultry farm. How many should I start with? Well, in today's video, we're going to sort out this mystery. What's the magic number for you to start with in order to be successful? Sure success. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Dr. Daniel over here, a young retired doctor who is very passionate about farming. That actually sounds nice. Someone told me to use that as my intro and I think I like it. Whoo! A young retired medical doctor who is very interested in poultry farming and passionate about it. So if this is your very first time on the channel, you know what to do. Just show me some love. Hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell, that way you never miss out on an upload. Lots and lots of thunder. Did you know Uganda is the most thunderous country in the world? We have lots and lots of thunder here, so I'm really sorry about that. So how many chickens should you start with in order for you to be successful? The simple answer is that it depends on a lot of things. Quite a number of things. We shall start out with probably one of the most important things. The purpose of what you're doing, the poultry farming. It could be one of 2 things. You could be starting it for home consumption, or you could be starting the poultry farm for commercial reasons. Now, if you want to start your poultry farm for home consumption, it doesn't make sense for you to start with 1,000 birds. What on earth are you going to do with 1,000 birds? You could never eat them all. You would get tired of eating chicken every day. So if you want to do it for home farming, then really just start with a few number of birds. Whatever you feel is comfortable for you to be able to eat. Now, we go to the real deal. You want to start with a commercial farm. Now, if you want to do a commercial farm, it will really depend on which kinds of birds that you're going to keep. That will determine the sensible number that you're going to start out with. It could be broilers, layers, dual-purpose birds, or indigenous birds. I hope you guys know the difference between these birds, yeah? Broilers are birds that are kept for meat, especially for meat. These guys have superb genes for meat, you know. They'll put on 2 kilograms in a space of just 5 to 6 weeks. Serious and superb growth. Then we have layers. They're also hybrids that are bred specifically to lay eggs. Very prolific birds for laying eggs. They'll give you eggs for around 330 days of the 365 days a year. Can you imagine an egg forming in that little thing almost every day in the whole year? Then we have the dual-purpose birds that are good at both laying and forming meat. They're not prolific at any of them, but they are good. They are substantially good. These will probably lay around 250 eggs every year, and they'll put on probably 3 kilograms at the age of 3 months, 12 weeks, and they could even increase up to 5 kilograms if you keep them for around 6 months. Then we have the indigenous birds. Indigenous really depends on why you keep them, but for us, indigenous here are local chickens, and these really take long to grow. You can barely find them at 2 kilograms for the females, and they will take around 6 months to even get to that, or even more, depending on how they feed themselves. So the idea is that if you want to start with broilers, you can make profit with almost any number. Probably nothing less than 100 birds, but anything more than 100 birds, you'll be able to make profits. So that's the magic number for broilers, at least 100 birds. Anything more than that, then we shall have the other factors coming into play. Layers, anything less than 500, I wouldn't advise you, because here you are selling eggs and eggs are smaller. The unit cost of an egg is certainly lower than the unit cost for a chicken. So anything less than 500, no, I wouldn't advise you because of the costs and the stress involved. Anything less than 500, for anyone who is serious, I would advise you to start with 1,000. So anything less than 500, no way. Dual purpose birds, that again depends on what purpose you're keeping them from. If you're keeping them for meat, then 100. If you're keeping them for eggs, then we shall keep the number 500, at least 500. Indigenous birds, I don't know if someone should really be keeping indigenous birds on a commercial level, feeding them. Now, indigenous birds can be kept commercially, but if you're going to be feeding them, it's just not worth it. Now, this is something I'll have to talk about in another video, because I know lots of people who are interested in keeping indigenous birds. So if you want to keep indigenous birds, really, you can keep them at any level, as long as you have the space to allow them feed themselves. So this is around 2-3 acres. We could easily keep 50, 100 birds, or even a little more than that on this space, because we know they can be able to survive on this space. There's lots of grass, lots of pasture. We have cattle around. They could come in here, dump their dung, get insects there. The chickens eat the insects. So it's something that we could handle here. So again, for the indigenous birds, that simply depends on the space that you have. The second thing that you need to consider before you determine how many to start with is the experience. Now, experience is super, super important. If you're a novice, you have no idea about poultry farming, chickens, the smaller, the better for you. Of course, don't start with one. Like, don't go and buy one layer and you're like, okay, let me use this one to lay. Really, there'll be no random sampling in there, In case the one bird gets sick, it gets sick and dies. There's nothing for you to learn. But the lower the number, the better for you. So if you want to start with layers, then start with 500 if you're a new farmer. Like I've said, if you want to make any money, I wouldn't advise you to go with below 500. So 500 is the minimum that you should start with, even for a novice, I do believe. So start with 500, and if you're focused, you won't lose them. Trust me, you won't lose them. I was a novice, I had no information about any of these things, and I went and bought 800 birds, my very first go, and I got them to grow up well. I actually did make a profit. And that's going to give you a very good learning curve without exposing you to too much risk of losing all your investment. But then if you have lots of experience, like me, you can start with whichever number. As long as the other factors allow you to do that. You can start with any number. We're going to talk about the other factors later on in the video. For example, I started out with 800, moved on to 1,000. Currently, we are going to be doing parent stock of around 3,000, and we have a goal of growing to 100,000, 200,000, or even 1,000,000 birds. I've gotten the knowledge, I've gotten some kind of experience. It's probably not the very best, like top experience. I'm not doing research into poultry, but I have the heart, and I believe I can handle any number of chickens right now. With the right equipment, with the right people to help me out, I believe I can handle anything. So with the correct experience, you can go for any number that you want to start with. Number 3, the money. The money is very important. If you have no money, there's no way you're going to go and start with 10,000 birds. Yeah. So if you have completely no money, don't go and buy 1,000 birds. You know, you have very little money. You go and buy 1,000 birds. Let's say layers. It reaches 3 months. You go broke. You can't sustain the birds. You can't buy them feeds. You can't buy them. No. Evaluate how much money do you have. That will determine how many birds that you can start with, because you don't want to die of hypertension or stress or some kind of stroke simply because of chickens, because you started out and all of a sudden you don't have the money to be able to sustain the project. If you have lots of money and the other factors agree, then you can start with whichever number that can fit into your pocket. So start with what fits into your pocket. Number 4 is the space. How much space do you have? If you have a space of 50 by 100 meters, there's no way you're going to keep a poultry farm of 100,000 birds. Even if you have the money, even if you have the experience, but you don't have the space, go get the space. If we talk about local chickens, for example, like I've already told you guys, you want to keep your local chickens in a place like this. If you don't have the land to let them roam around and occupy the entire space, then it doesn't make sense for you to go for 300 birds, because they're going to waste your 50 by 100 feet plot super quickly. So how many birds you start with will also depend on how much space you have in order to run that farm. So what's the magic number considering space? If you're going to be keeping your birds in a deep litter system, it's 6 birds per square meter. Guys, remember, I don't do cages. I'll never do cages, so I'm no expert at cages. But if you want to do a deep litter system, 6 birds per square meter, it can push up to 8 birds per square meter for the layers. For the broilers, you can do between 10 and 12 birds per square meter with the correct aeration. Don't forget that. So finally, is there a magic number? Is there a magic number for you to consider before you start your farm? No, there is no magic number. Yeah, there is no magic number. You just need to sit down, look through the reasons that I've told you guys, and consider what you can handle. Yeah, you could have all the money in the world, have all the space in the world, but if you have no experience, it doesn't make sense for you to go out and start with 10,000 birds, because you could lose all of them. It doesn't make any financial sense, you know. Or you could have all the experience in the world, you have the land, it's probably inherited land, but with no money, you know, you can't go and even buy 1,000 birds, you know. So it depends on a lot of factors. Consider all these factors and you'll come up with that magic number. That magic number varies greatly depending on who you are. So I hope I've helped you guys determine which number of birds that you can start out with. I started with 800 at my very first go because that's what I could be able to handle. You can start with whatever number you can handle, and trust me, you can and will be successful. Thanks guys for watching. Lots of love. Bye bye. See you very soon.